If you're over 60 and you still think every nut in the snack aisle is automatically good for your kidneys, this may be the most important health warning you hear all week. I've seen older adults switch from chips and cookies to what they believed were healthy nuts, only to watch their swelling get worse, their lab numbers creep in the wrong direction, and their kidney stone risk quietly rise. And the scariest part is, they had no idea they were doing anything wrong. Today, I'm going to show you 3 nuts seniors should avoid completely if they care about kidney health, and 3 that are far gentler on aging kidneys and may actually support them. And the number 1 nut to avoid is the one millions of health-conscious people eat every single day. I'm Dr. Jassica Williams, and if you've ever looked at a bag of nuts and thought, how could something this natural be bad for me? You're asking exactly the right question. Because after 60, your kidneys are not working with the same reserve they had at 30. Even if you've never been diagnosed with kidney disease, your filtering system may already be less forgiving. That means foods that once passed through your body without much trouble can start creating stress in ways you never feel until the damage is already building. That's why this conversation matters so much. We're not talking about trendy diet advice. We're talking about the difference between choosing snacks that quietly burden your kidneys versus snacks that respect the limits of an aging body. And I want you to stay with me, because one of the good nuts on today's list surprises almost everyone, while one of the bad ones has one of the strongest health halos in America. Now, before we get into the list, I want you to think about your own routine. What's the nut you reach for most often? Is it something you toss into oatmeal, add to yogurt, or keep in the car for a quick bite? Hold that answer in your mind, because by the end of this, you may look at that habit very differently. And if you've never once considered how nuts affect your kidneys, don't worry. Most people haven't. That's exactly why these mistakes are so common. Here's the first big misconception. People talk about nuts as if they're all one category, like choosing between different shades of the same color. They're not. Some are loaded with compounds that can be hard on kidneys already struggling with potassium balance, phosphorus clearance, or stone formation. Others are much lower in those troublemakers and bring benefits that actually fit the needs of older adults. The difference is not small. It's the difference between a snack that adds hidden strain and one that offers nutrition without pushing your kidneys into overtime. And if you've had even one of these issues before, kidney stones, elevated creatinine, reduced eGFR, swelling in the legs, blood pressure problems, diabetes, or a doctor telling you to watch your labs, then what I'm about to share becomes even more relevant. Because once kidneys start losing efficiency, they don't handle excess minerals and metabolic waste the way they used to. That's when healthy can become risky fast. Let's start with the nuts I would be most careful with if you're over 60. The third nut to avoid is pistachios. And I know that may sound unfair. Pistachios are trendy, colorful, satisfying, and constantly marketed as a smart snack. People love that they come in shells because it feels like you'll naturally eat less. But that doesn't always happen. In fact, older adults often end up eating more than they realize because pistachios go down so easily and feel light, almost harmless. Here's the problem. Pistachios carry a heavier potassium load than many people expect, and they also bring a meaningful amount of phosphorus. That combination matters because if your kidneys aren't clearing those minerals efficiently, they begin to accumulate. Too much potassium can affect muscle and heart function. Too much phosphorus can pull calcium out of your bones over time and contribute to calcification in blood vessels. You may not feel that happening in the moment. That's what makes it so dangerous. The damage is slow, silent, and easy to dismiss until your labs finally expose it. Pistachios also come with a second trap: salt. Most people are not eating raw, unsalted pistachios in tiny measured portions. They're eating roasted, seasoned, salted pistachios by the handful. That means now you're not just dealing with the natural mineral burden of the nut itself, you're layering sodium on top of it. And for older adults with high blood pressure, fluid retention, or heart issues, that's a serious issue because your kidneys and your circulation are deeply connected. When sodium rises, blood pressure can rise. When blood pressure rises, the kidneys take another hit. What makes pistachios especially sneaky is how often they show up outside the snack bowl. They're in dessert toppings, bakery items, ice cream, trail mixes, protein bars, and those premium snack blends that look healthy because the packaging is clean and expensive. A little here, a little there, and you've had far more than you think. That's how kidney stress accumulates in real life. Not through one dramatic binge, but through repeated, innocent-looking choices. And if you think pistachios are the biggest trap, wait until you hear about the next one, because this nut has become a superstar in plant-based eating and catches seniors off guard all the time. The second nut to avoid is cashews. Cashews are creamy, soft, mild, and unbelievably easy to overeat. They don't fight back. They don't slow you down. And that's part of the problem. Many older adults can polish off a generous portion without even noticing, because cashews feel more like comfort food than a dense, mineral-rich food source. Cashews can be a problem for kidneys for several reasons at once. First, they contain oxalates, and that matters a lot if you're someone with a history of kidney stones, especially calcium oxalate stones, which are the most common type. Oxalates can bind with calcium and contribute to crystal formation. Now, not everyone who eats oxalates develops stones, but if you're already vulnerable, regularly loading up on high oxalate foods is like throwing sparks near dry grass and hoping nothing catches. Second, cashews bring enough potassium and phosphorus to be a concern for many seniors who are already on the edge with kidney function. Maybe you've never been told you have kidney disease, but your kidneys don't have to be in full failure for this to matter. You could simply be in that common gray zone where kidney efficiency is lower than it used to be. That's when routinely eating mineral-dense foods can start nudging your body in the wrong direction. And then there's the modern cashew explosion. Cashew milk, cashew cheese, cashew cream, cashew-based dips, dairy-free sauces, vegan desserts. What used to be an occasional snack is now an ingredient hiding in health foods all over the grocery store. A person may think they barely eat cashews, yet they're getting them in coffee creamer, salad dressing, and packaged plant-based foods all week long. That kind of repeated exposure adds up quickly. There's another issue people miss. Many commercial cashew products are heavily processed and often paired with additives, oils, sodium, starches, and stabilizers. So now you're not even getting a simple whole food. You're getting a kidney-unfriendly package dressed up as a wellness choice. And if you're older and trying to eat lighter or cleaner, it's easy to be misled by the label. But even cashews are not the most surprising nut on this list, because the number one nut to avoid is the one many people honestly believe they should be eating more of for better health. The number one nut seniors should be most cautious with is almonds. This is where people get shocked. Almonds have one of the strongest healthy reputations in the food world. They're in oatmeal, granola, cereal, baked goods, snack packs, energy bars, smoothies, milk alternatives, flour alternatives, and every better-for-you dessert imaginable. Almonds are so heavily associated with wellness that many people never stop to ask whether they're the right choice for their kidneys. For a lot of older adults, they're not. The main reason is oxalates. Almonds are one of the more oxalate-heavy nuts people commonly eat, and that matters tremendously for anyone prone to kidney stones or dealing with kidneys that don't have much margin for error. You can eat a relatively modest amount and still take in a level of oxalates that may be unwise if stone formation is already part of your history. And the frustrating part is that almonds often show up in concentrated forms, which makes the load even easier to overdo. Think about almond butter, almond flour, almond meal, almond milk used in multiple recipes. A handful of whole almonds is one thing, but once almonds are ground, spread, baked, or blended into healthy foods, it becomes incredibly easy to consume the equivalent of several handfuls without ever feeling like you ate much. That's where people get into trouble. Not because almonds are poison, but because they're concentrated, repeated, and wrapped in a health message that encourages overuse. Almonds can also be problematic for seniors managing kidney disease because of their phosphorus content. And again, phosphorus isn't dramatic. It's not like touching a hot stove. You don't feel an immediate warning. But over time, excess phosphorus can become a very real problem when kidneys can't clear it efficiently. Bone health suffers, vascular health suffers, and older adults are already trying to protect both. This is why almonds deserve the top spot. Not because they are the saltiest or the fattiest. They're number one because they fool people. They look like the safe choice. They wear the costume of health. And when a food has that much trust built around it, people stop respecting portions, frequency, and context. That's when a good food starts quietly doing the wrong job in the wrong body. So if almonds, cashews, and pistachios are the troublemakers, what should a senior reach for instead? Here's the good news. You do not have to give up nuts completely. In fact, if you choose wisely, some nuts can fit beautifully into a kidney-conscious routine because they offer satisfying healthy fats, helpful antioxidants, and a gentler mineral profile. And the first one I want you to know about is probably not the one you expected. The third best nut for seniors concerned about kidney health is pecans. Pecans don't get nearly the attention they deserve. They're not as aggressively marketed as almonds. They're not splashed across every wellness blog. But from a kidney perspective, that may be exactly why they're worth a closer look. Pecans tend to be lower in phosphorus and potassium than several of the more popular nuts, which makes them far easier for older kidneys to handle in reasonable portions. That lower mineral burden matters more than most people realize. When I talk to seniors about protecting kidney health, I'm not only looking for foods with benefits, I'm looking for foods that do not create unnecessary work. That's a huge difference. Pecans can offer satisfaction, texture, and flavor without the same level of mineral stress you get from some other nuts. That makes them practical, not just nutritious. Pecans also contain healthy fats and antioxidant compounds that support overall vascular health. And that matters because kidneys rely on a rich network of tiny blood vessels to do their job. Protect the blood vessels and you support the kidneys. Damage the blood vessels through chronic inflammation, poorly controlled blood sugar, or high blood pressure, and kidney function often follows the decline. That's why I never separate kidney health from heart and vessel health. They rise and fall together more often than people think. Another reason I like pecans for older adults is that they feel rich and satisfying quickly. That may sound like a small thing, but it's not. One of the biggest challenges with snacking is portion creep. A food that satisfies you sooner can help you stop sooner. That makes moderation easier. With pecans, a small portion can feel like enough, especially when eaten slowly instead of mindlessly. And here's the hidden advantage. Pecans work well in simple, kidney-conscious meals. A few chopped up over plain oatmeal. A few crushed into unsweetened yogurt if dairy fits your plan. A small portion alongside sliced apples or berries. They bring flavor without forcing you to rely on salt, sauces, or sugar to make a snack feel rewarding. Now, pecans are a strong start, but the next nut brings something extra, something that matters a lot when inflammation and circulation become part of the kidney story. The second best nut for seniors is walnuts. Walnuts stand out because they offer plant omega-3 fats, specifically the kind that can support a healthier inflammatory balance in the body. That's important because chronic inflammation is one of the invisible forces that slowly damages blood vessels, accelerates metabolic problems, and helps drive kidney decline over time. You may not wake up one morning and feel inflamed, but your body can be living in that state for years. Walnuts are not magic, and I never want to pretend that one food fixes everything. But when a food offers beneficial fats, reasonable kidney compatibility, and real satiety, it earns a place in the conversation. Walnuts do exactly that. They are one of the few nuts that bring a very distinct nutritional advantage beyond simply being a better snack than crackers or chips. I also like walnuts because they fit into a pattern of eating that tends to help older adults in multiple ways. They pair well with foods that support blood sugar stability. They can replace more processed snacks. They encourage slower eating because of their texture and richness, and that matters if you're dealing with diabetes or pre-diabetes, which many seniors are. High blood sugar and kidney damage are close companions. Anything that helps you snack more wisely without feeling deprived can have ripple effects far beyond the snack itself. From a kidney perspective, walnuts are often easier to work with than nuts that are extremely high in oxalates or overly concentrated in phosphorus. They still require portion control, of course. This is not a free-for-all. But in sensible amounts, walnuts are one of the better options for many seniors who want a nut that gives them more than crunch. And let me make one point very clear. The best version is the plain version. Not candied walnuts, not heavily salted walnuts, not those sugary salad toppers that turn a solid food into dessert. When companies coat a good nut in sugar, salt, and cheap oils, they erase half the benefit and add a whole new problem. Keep it simple. If you found this helpful so far, let this be the moment you make a quiet change in your kitchen. Because the number one nut I recommend most often for seniors worried about kidney strain is not the one most people guess. The number one best nut for many seniors is macadamia nuts. Macadamias are one of the gentlest nuts from a kidney standpoint because they tend to be lower in potassium and phosphorus than many other popular choices. That gives them a huge advantage right away. Remember, the goal is not just to find a nut with nice-sounding nutrients. The goal is to find a nut that an older body can handle without creating avoidable mineral pressure. Macadamias do that beautifully. They're also rich in monounsaturated fats, the kind commonly associated with heart-friendly eating patterns. And that matters because the kidney conversation is never just about the kidneys. It's about the whole system that feeds them, pressures them, and depends on them. If you support healthier circulation and reduce inflammatory stress, you're indirectly helping preserve kidney function too. What I especially like about macadamias for seniors is how naturally portion-limiting they are. They're rich, they're buttery, they feel substantial. Most people don't race through them the way they race through cashews or pistachios. That can make it easier to stay in a reasonable serving without feeling deprived. For older adults trying to protect kidneys, manage appetite, and avoid processed snacks, that's a meaningful advantage. Macadamias also work well as a replacement food. And replacement is everything in nutrition. It's not enough to say, don't eat this. You need a satisfying alternative, or the old habit comes roaring back. If someone cuts out salty snack mixes or high oxalate nuts, but replaces them with a small portion of plain macadamias, they are much more likely to stay consistent. That consistency is what changes health over time. Now, before you run to the pantry and start tossing out every bag you own, there's something critical I need you to understand. Even the best nuts on this list can become a problem if portions get sloppy. The issue is not only what you eat, it's how much, how often, and what your kidneys can handle personally. A kidney-friendly nut is not a license to eat half the container. older kidneys still appreciate restraint. This is where many well-meaning people make their next mistake. They hear that a food is better, then they turn better into more. More is not better here. Better is better. A small measured portion, usually around 1 ounce, depending on your medical needs, is very different from casual grazing out of a large bag while watching television. One is nourishment. The other is overload disguised as snacking. And there's one more twist I don't want you to miss. Preparation changes everything. A plain nut and a honey-roasted, heavily salted, flavor-dusted version are not nutritionally the same experience. Added sodium pushes blood pressure. Sugary coatings affect blood sugar. Artificial flavor blends and additives can make you eat far beyond true hunger. So even when you choose a better nut, the smartest version is almost always plain, unsalted, and portioned before you start eating. If you're wondering how to actually use this in daily life, here's the practical way to think about it. Don't make nuts the background noise of your day. Make them intentional, a measured serving, a real snack, a real choice. Maybe a small handful of walnuts with breakfast. Maybe pecans with fruit in the afternoon. Maybe macadamias in place of the salty processed snack you used to lean on. When nuts are deliberate, they can work for you. When they become mindless, they often work against you. And please remember, kidney health is never decided by one food alone. Your blood pressure, hydration habits, blood sugar control, medications, protein intake, and even over-the-counter pain reliever use all matter. But food choices stack. They build. They create a pattern. And when you repeat the wrong pattern for years, your kidneys eventually show the bill. That's why I want to leave you with a simple framework. If you're over 60, stop asking, "Is this food healthy in general?" and start asking, "Is this food gentle on my kidneys right now?" That one shift can change everything. Because a food can be healthy for a marathon runner in their 20s and still be a poor fit for a 72-year-old with high blood pressure, borderline kidney function, and a history of stones. Context matters. Age matters. Your body matters. So here's the takeaway I want burned into your memory. Be very careful with pistachios, cashews, and especially almonds if kidney health is on your radar. They can bring too much of the very things aging kidneys often struggle with most. And if you want better choices, look toward pecans, walnuts, and macadamia nuts in modest portions, prepared simply and used with intention. Most importantly, if you already have kidney disease, diabetes, uncontrolled blood pressure, swelling, or a history of kidney stones, don't guess. Bring your latest lab work into the conversation with your doctor or renal dietitian. Ask about your creatinine. Ask about your eGFR. Ask whether you need to watch potassium, phosphorus, oxalates, sodium, or protein more closely. Because the right snack for your neighbor may be the wrong one for you, and the smartest decision is always the one built around your actual numbers. I'm Dr. Jassica Williams, and if this message reached you at the right time, let it change your next grocery trip. Not next month, not when the current bag runs out, your next trip. Look at the labels, look at the ingredients, look at the habits you've called healthy just because they were common. Then choose more carefully. And here's the question I want you thinking about after this ends. Which nut in your kitchen is helping your kidneys, and which one has been quietly working against them all along? Once you know that answer, you're no longer snacking on autopilot. You're protecting one of the most important organs you have, one choice at a time. If there's one thing I hope you remember, it's this. After 60, small decisions are not small anymore. They accumulate. They shape your labs, your energy, your independence, and your future. Choose wisely, and your kidneys will have a much better chance of serving you well for years to come.